Now, here's what Kamala said about all this. Joe says, you've got enough resources. Okay, stop your complaining. Here's Kamala. They wrote something for her, put it on a teleprompter. Here's what she said.
Again, I want to say a few words about Hurricane Helene. And please have a seat if you're able. I want to
Nobody listened to her.
Hurricane Helene for a moment.
No one.
And I know that everyone here sends their thoughts and prayers for the folks who have been so devastated by that hurricane and the ensuing events in Florida, in Georgia, the Carolinas, and other impacted states. And we know that so many have been impacted. Some have died. But I want to thank everyone for doing everything you can to think about them, send them your thoughts, send them your prayers.
Think hard.
I want to thank the first responders who have done so much. And we will stand with these communities for as long as it takes to make sure that they are able to recover and rebuild. Earlier today, I received an operational briefing from FEMA Director Criswell. More than 3,300 federal.
I like how she does that gulp. From Chris Wells, like she knows him or something. She never heard of this dude, never heard of this guy at all. First time she's ever gotten a briefing of any consequence. So she does that little gulp thing. And I do that on the show sometimes when I'm trying to make an awkward point. Sometimes I do it in general anyways. I'm gulping and trying to survive as I'm navigating through the documents. But sometimes I'll do it things would be a little bit, no, I love doing that. No, it's my favorite thing to do. Because it just feels weird. It's like that awkward pause, like you're gulping, and it just looks like you're uncomfortable. She does that. Let's see if we caught it right here.
Received an operational briefing from FEMA Director Criswell. More than 3,300 federal personnel have been mobilized. We are deploying food, water, and generators and working to restore water and power.
Chris Wells? Yeah. Yeah, I love Chris Wells. Yeah.
And the president and I have told state and local leaders we will provide whatever help they need in the days and weeks ahead. And so I thank you all for sending your best wishes to everyone there.
All right, send your best wishes. Hopefully that dries out the water over there, because the federal government really isn't doing anything. Now, Trump has hit her hard over this because it is part of their responsibility to make sure that this stuff is handled appropriately. We've got over 100 people now dead, but former President Trump, they say, is turning this into a campaign issue. You're kidding. During a rally, he accused Joe Biden of being sleeping on the beach and dragged Kamala Harris into it. Said, when big parts of our country have been devastated by that massive hurricane, now the number is at least 100 dead. Storm made landfall. Trump campaign announced he's going there in Georgia. Biden told FEMA, and Biden was just out today, said that he planned to visit the impacted community this week and that Harris is going to go, quote, as soon as possible without being disruptive. Harris has been briefed by Criswell, that guy, according to the White House, and Biden has approved disaster declarations for numerous states. Oh, perfect. So now people can vote without ID. Nice. Harris released a statement expressing her condolences, saying that you should send your thoughts and prayers over there. Biden was at his beach house in Rehoboth Beach over the weekend, while other people had the beach delivered to their house. He urged agencies to speed up the deployment of search and rescue teams. Now, how elected officials respond to this may make or break their political futures. Yeah, Hurricane Maria. Trump got backlash about that, right? They turned that into a nightmare for him. First built up his trip on True Social. Trump's going there today. Tim Walz posted on X that the victims were on his mind. And we'll see who shows up there and what they can do for the people there. But we'll continue to pray for them. And my friends, if you're amongst them, please let us know if we can help or send some love your way. All right. So that is what's happening in Hurricane. But there's more. And this was a fun one from Trump World. Trump under fire for calling Kamala Harris mentally impaired. I don't know what the problem is. We all know it's true. She should be prosecuted, he says. And he said that maybe she was just born this way. Joe Biden went through a shift in his lifetime, but Kamala always been like this. And so NBC News and many others, there were a bunch of articles out there and a lot of stuff on X over this. I've never seen anything like this. Trump is so disgusting for using this rhetoric. There were headlines all over the place. It's hilarious. Trump said at a rally that Harris should be impeached and prosecuted, which is absolutely true, for her actions related to the southern border, for facilitating an invasion of our country. Now, he argued that the people were murdered because of her action at the border. True. Thousands more will follow in rapid succession. True. She should be impeached and prosecuted for her actions. What's the problem? Now, Trump also lobbed personal attacks at Harris. You're kidding. How could he do such a thing? What would be really bad is if Trump called Harris like a threat to democracy or something like that. Is that not a personal attack? Echoing comments at his rally on Saturday, when he called Harris on Saturday, quote, mentally disabled and mentally impaired. Now, they say Trump has gone after Harris in personal terms, often on her race and gender, and he's gone after her and Mark Zuckerberg and so on. All right, so they're melting down over this. You get the point. Now, here's the amazing exchange, the amazing clip from the president himself making this very astute observation.
Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way.
It's true. One more time.
Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way.
It's true.
Who was born that way?
Yeah, it's definitely done. It's true.
You think about it, only a mentally disabled person could have allowed this to happen to our country. Anybody would know this. Joe Biden became...
Yeah, she did it. She's doing it intentionally. And so he got asked about this with the media. How could you say such a thing? It's so terrible for you to say the CBS News.
I insult her intelligence.
I have to do that. I don't think she's a very bright person.
It's true.
I do feel that. I think that's right. I think I am a very bright person.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that. I don't think she's a very bright person.
No.
And you know what? Our country needs a very smart person. And I don't think she's a very smart person. So
why
I'm
do you
not
think
looking
that?
to, I don't consider that an insult. That's just a fact.
No, I'm not calling her dumb. She just is dumb. So it's just an observational component of the campaign. I'm just calling her what she is. It's not even an insult at all. Okay. And Trump is not alone in this. All right. Other Democrats are saying that Kamala is now underwater, which is a bad euphemism when the South is underwater. Now, Elisa Slotkin is the woman, maybe Alyssa Slotkin, from Michigan, is a representative over there. This is what she looks like. She warned donors that the internal polling for her Senate campaign, she's running there, shows Kamala is underwater in Michigan. Oh, Axios got a video clip of this. Some people say, oh, it's just a standard electioneering. Okay, she's trying to raise money. She doesn't actually mean it. But why does it matter? These are pretty important states. If Kamala loses Michigan, that's not good for her. She's probably going to lose Wisconsin and definitely Pennsylvania at that point, because Michigan was her biggest margin of error victory in Biden's in 2020. Harris and her simplest path to victory is through those states, the so-called blue wall. If former President Trump sweeps the Sun Belt, he'd only need to pick up one of those blue wall states to win. If he gets Arizona, Nevada, and theoretically Georgia. Now, the average of the polls has Harris up by 2.4 points in Michigan. Michigan is also a top pickup opportunity for Senate Republicans. Millions of bucks are going into that campaign. Slotkin versus Mike Rogers. What Slotkin said, quote, I'm not feeling my best right now about where we are on Kamala Harris in a place like Michigan. Slotkin said during a fundraiser in New Jersey with Cory Booker on Wednesday. Slotkin said, we have her underwater in our polling. Yeah, that doesn't sound like electioneering to me. That sounds like panic button. They reached out to Slotkin's campaign, did not respond to requests for comment, said it's not unusual for campaigns to paint themselves as the polling underdog as a fundraising tactic. The polling average has Slotkin up 48% to 43%, and the recent poll has her up by 5 points. Republicans have also raised alarm. Yeah, money advantage. Democrats 2-1 money. Lots of rich Democrats. It's the party of the rich, really, now. It's the party of big pharma, big ag, big defense, big education, big everything. They own it all. So they've got a ton of money. And RFK Jr. has made this point many times, saying that the parties have inverted themselves. Big money, big Wall Street money. It's all Democrat money, big tech, right? Now, but there are some signs that the Senate race could be tightening. Republican internal polling shows that candidates are statistically tied. Woo! Senate races in Ruby Red, Ohio and Montana have been getting more money and attention, but a Republican win in Michigan would be a major upset and would virtually guarantee a GOP majority. And so we're liking the sound of that. Now, why might this be changing? We don't really know. Turns out the Democrats have a new strategy that they're on launching, and it is now masculinity from Doug Emhoff. So if you're looking to increase your alpha maleness, this is the man to follow.
Important part, or an interesting part of how people have talked about your role here is how your role has reshaped the perception of masculinity. And I'm not sure you planned on that, but you are an incredibly supportive spouse. Has that been an evolution for you? And do you think that's part of the role you might play as first gentleman?
It's funny. I've started to think a lot about this. I've always been like this. My dad was like this. And to me, it's
important.
Okay. That's Democrat masculinity right there. Symbolic of just teeming testosterone from that guy. Now, there is more from the Senate. Kamala not doing so hot. There's some good reasons for this. It's because she's pretty terrible. She wants to ban gas-powered cars. She wants reparations and more. Here's what Tom Cotton said about it.
I think they deserve to hear a lot more from Kamala Harris because she's been lying to them for the last 3 months. If you look at her record, she's been trying to run away from it from the very moment she took the nomination from Joe Biden. She wants to ban gas-powered cars. She wants to give reparations based on race. She wants to ban fracking. She wants to take away private health insurance on the job. These are not positions that she took as a teenager in high school. These are positions she took as a 54-year-old woman running for president in her own right. That's the true Kamala Harris, a weak, dangerous San Francisco liberal. Kamala Harris is the one who owes the American people a lot more answer. Donald Trump can simply point at his record and say, for 4 years when I was president, we had peace, prosperity, a secure border, and we were respected around the world. That's what the American people remember. That's what they're going to get when they elect him again to the White House.
Woo, Tom Cotton on fire on that one. And I think more and more people are starting to realize Kamala's a giant faker. And people are pretty tired of the lawfare and Trump being maligned as they prop up their fake facade candidate in Kamala Harris. Here was Eric Holder. They're all petrified that Trump is going to use the tools that they're using against Trump back against them. They're the ones who are the actual criminals. They're the ones who have created and used the government as lawfare institutions against their political opponents, which is in direct violation of their oaths as prosecutors.
Assistant United States attorneys, they will use the mechanisms of the Department of Justice to go after people.
You're doing it right now. Do you think that they are too dense that they don't recognize the hypocrisy in this? Or do you think that they're dishonest? Which one is it? It's got to be one or the other. They're either dumb or they're dishonest. They're too dumb to recognize when they talk to Letish James or Eric Holder or any of these guys. I can't, they're going to weaponize against us. You go, wait, what? Do you not recognize that you're doing that currently? Are they too dumb or are they just dishonest? Like they know that they're doing it and they don't want to admit it, right? It's a projection tactic. Maybe it's intentional or maybe they were just born with it. I don't know.
This is something that has never really happened in the history of this republic. And that is something by itself that I think should disqualify Trump for being considered for president of the United States.
No doubt it should, among many other things that should also disqualify. I wanted to ask,
Thanks, Jen. All right. So Jen goes from the White House to now her gig at the MSNBC location, and it's not working out well for them. So you can see Harry Enton from CNN. He is one of the forecasters over there saying that Kamala is at a historic low. Look at this chart right here. Not good.
Points that just jump off the screen should set off sirens. All right, this is Union households. This is the Democratic margin in presidential election. It ain't what it used to be. You go back to 1992, Bill Clinton won that Union vote by 30 points. Hillary Clinton only won it by 12 points back in 2016. That was the lowest mark for a Democrat since 1984, Mondale versus Reagan. But look at where Kamala Harris is today. She's only leading by 9 points. That would be the worst Democratic performance in a generation, 10 points off the mark of Joe Biden, who of course won 4 years ago, was that Union guy, Union Joe, right? Won it by 19 points. She's 10 points off his mark, and the worst in a generation if this, in fact, holds, Sarah.
It is interesting to note that the difference between this and Biden still won.
Still won.
But those numbers are significantly down. All right. Talk to me about manual labor, those folks who went to trade schools.
Yeah, those folks who use their hands. I think a lot of people oftentimes conflate the union vote with those who use their hands. Mike Rowe, of course, has been arguing more people should go to trade schools. More people should get a vocational degree. Look at this margin.
Wow.
This, to me, oh boy, does this tell you about the state of our politics now versus
shout out to our
trade
trade brothers and sisters out
margin
there.
Among vocational and trade school grads in pre-election polling. Bill Clinton was leading that vote over George H.W. Bush by 7 points. Look at where Donald Trump is today over Kamala Harris, a 31-point advantage. When I think people think of the working class, they think of people who use their hands. And we know that Donald Trump has been going after that vote, and he is in a very strong position, more so perhaps than any other bloc. The folks who go to trade school, vocational school, that has moved from being a core Democratic group to now being a core group of Donald Trump's massive amount of support among the working class.
All right, let's move on to voters of color. And there's a very specific group that you looked at. And what are you seeing there?
Yeah, we've been noting on this program that Donald Trump seems to have been having some real impact among voters of color, getting into that traditional Democratic support. And I was very interested to see this because we're talking about the working class, right? So this is the margin among non-college graduates, all right? The voters of color. You go back 4 years ago, look at that. Joe Biden won that group by 45 points. Look at where Kamala Harris's support is today. She's still leading amongst that group, but that lead is down 17 points to just 28 points. And I will note that the margin among voters of color who actually graduate college has only been changed by 5 points. 5 points compared to 4 years ago. The reason Donald Trump is doing so well amongst voters of color is because he has really gone in and grabbed a lot of voters that he didn't previously have among those who didn't graduate college. And this is part of a larger trend that we're seeing throughout our politics era, in which Republicans, specifically Donald Trump, is doing very well among working class voters, whether they were in unions, whether they went to trade school, or whether they're voters of color. The fact is Donald Trump seems to have gone into a hotbed of traditional Democratic support and made a lot of movement in ways I don't think a lot of people would have thought when he went down that escalator just back.
All people of all colors, all races want a good economy, want a safe country. I think most also people want no wars. It's only the elite that want the wars and the open borders. Everybody else wants a sound currency, wants a roaring economy, wants to work hard and have something to show for it. It's much broader than them cobbling together everybody. Oh, you're a victim because white people did this to you, and you're a victim because white people did this to you, and you're a victim because straight people did this to you, and religious people did this to you, and so on and so forth. The economy is the great unifier, and it's going to bring us all together until we find something else to fight about. When the economy's crap and the border's wide open and people are feeling it in their pocketbooks, people start to recognize that this race baiting, divisive crap is just that. It's just race baiting divisiveness.
In 2015.
All right, Harry Ensign, bringing us the numbers as they look right now. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so nice job from Harry. Good numbers. Glad to see some of those.